Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Sorry for being a couple minutes late. I was like trying to connect to the Wi-Fi here.
You're good.
Also,
Oh my goodness, Edwin, how are you?
good. It's been so long. How you been?
Good. I'm great. Thank you. Thanks for asking. Good to see you.
I had
I
no idea.
can't you're
You can
cut
hear me.
you're fading in and out audio wise.
How about now?
I can
Is
hear you
it?
now. Yeah.
You can hear me now? Okay.
Yeah. Where are you
This is my
at? That's
AirPods.
that's
This
a
is
cool
Tapville.
background.
Yeah.
Tapville Social. Is that the new
Yep.
one at Fox Valley?
hmm
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I got here a little earlier, and it's funny how it's snowing outside, right? I wasn't expecting that.
My dogs were like, what?
Right. I love your setup though. It's so cool.
Thank you.
I'm almost jealous because I should have gone there in person now that I saw it, and
Uh
then I was like, oh man.
Sometimes convenience wins, though,
hmm
Like, man, it's hard. It's hard. It's a hard knock life right now.
Yeah, yeah. Can you
So,
see everything back there? I think
yeah,
you.
I could see it
Oh,
great.
okay.
So thank you. I appreciate you being a guest, and
hmm
I saw you at a city council meeting. I was on
Yes.
a few meetings, like I don't know, a few meetings ago,
Uh-huh.
and this was when Tapville Social was asking for the permit or the licenses, and
Yes.
you came on the feed, and I'm like, oh, Edwin, oh my goodness.
I know
So I
everybody
made a
started
mental
hitting me
note.
up. It was funny. People came out of the woodworks. I'm putting books. I feel short on this chair. Let's see. There
Yeah,
we go. People started coming out of the woodworks, and people I haven't spoken to in years, I guess, including yourself, right?
right.
And for the most part, though, it's been nothing but positive feedback. And um, I guess I don't know if we're recording it, but I can tell you the whole story.
Yeah, so let's just get right into it.
Cool. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's happened? So let me just start with a brief little intro really quick. So welcome to Tuesdays with Andrea podcast. This week we have special guest Edwin Goitia. And Edwin and I go way back. We used to work together at
hmm
Best Buy. He didn't work for Best Buy. He was part of a marketing firm that was supporting some of, I think, the Samsung
hmm
area back then.
Samsung and Microsoft Connect. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
so but we saw each other every day, and
hmm
you just talk and get to know each other's life, and
hmm
when you're in a box like that, you just become friends. And
Yeah.
it's so great to see you doing and having amazing success today. I saw Edwin recently at a city council meeting, and that's how we got connected again. He's an inspiring person. He's always moving. He's always making the world a little bit better, and you're a great marketer too. So let's get right into it. What's up with you? What have you been up to?
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, it's funny. You're one of the few people that I feel like has always stuck around. Like I randomly think about you. I wonder what she's up to. I remember back in the good old days when I was doing Best Buy and marketing. I still do a lot of the same stuff. Of course, the world has changed in the last 2 years, right? So instead of going to trade shows and retail settings for marketing, I kind of got into actually retail digital space in the last year. So still running that business and excited to open another business this year. Took a big leap, but it's been fun. Family's growing, wife's happy, the kids are getting big. I got my daughter, she's 6 now. So, and somehow I guess people say I still look young. I don't know
You
why.
still look
Yeah.
young, Edwin.
Yeah. A lot of
And I
running.
remember, I remember at Best Buy, we both had older kids, but you understood the family dynamic and raising kids and still being, the parent who's trying to provide and on the
Mhm.
go. I respect
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. It's funny because our kids are the same age. The older ones are the same age. He's going to go to NIU this coming school
What?
year. Yeah. So,
Congratulations.
it's crazy for me because I was, 30 to 132 already talking to my kid about college preparation, essays, etc. And then just last week we were doing dorm, selections. And my friends that I'm talking to, they're looking at me like I'm crazy because they can't even fathom what that's like at that age.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been very interesting, but we've been very humbled and, he's learned a lot as well. And I'm very proud of him, in the
How does
last two
that make
years.
you? Yeah, that must be such a proud moment as a dad to like send him
Mhm.
off and make and have him in an education setting and
Mhm.
pursuing his scholarly dreams.
Yeah, yeah, because I think going into the pandemic, one of the biggest things that we taught our kids was, things are going to get crazy. It's not going to be what you expect. The world's going to make it seem terrible, but you have to keep a positive mindset. You have to keep moving. You have to change your habits, etc. And I think that's why we're proud of him, because he was able to lose 70 pounds. We trained him, we worked out with him, and he just has an incredible mindset now. And he's just like unstoppable. He went from quiet to a whole different person. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And with your guidance and help, and you and mom, of course, right? And
Yeah.
so,
Positive people.
and how was that having a kid young for you? What was your experience like?
Yeah, yeah. Well, because my daughter's 6, so my wife and I have been together for 11 years. And when I met her, we already had the boys, from her previous marriage. And so for me, it kind of jumping into that was a big moment for me. I was like, okay, I have a big career ahead of me. I still think figuring things out. Is this what I want? And I think at the end of the day, I decided it was worth it. So I made it work. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
And how did you know your wife was the one?
Um, well, because my life was so crazy as it was, and I'm like, well, she hasn't left me yet, so it's gonna work out.
You're
That's
gonna be the one.
yeah, I know. I'm like, if you can handle this, I think it's gonna work out for us. And I was traveling a lot back then. I don't travel as much anymore for work.
Yeah. And that's new for you, right? Because you were always traveling,
Hmm.
always traveling.
Yeah, yeah. I think when I met you, I mean, I learned a lot from you, watching how you worked, how you led your team, and the way that you did things at Best Buy. I think that left a mark on me, and I took that with me everywhere I
Are you
went.
just saying that for the podcast?
No, no, no. I think because like I said, you're one of the few people that I still remember from way back. And so that means something.
Thank you. Appreciate
Yeah,
that. Appreciate that.
yeah.
So Tapville Social, how did you get involved after that work at Best Buy? Where did you go from there?
Yeah, yeah. So at the time I met you, I was doing promotional marketing for companies all over, and I mostly stayed in Chicago. Here and there, I would travel. From there, I ended up kind of growing my company and changing the branding of it to Final Stretch Events, which is my new company. And I did staffing for trade shows, for auto shows, and pretty much anything all over the country. And I basically worked with Hyundai, AT&T, and countless other clients, for the last 6, 7 years, I would say. So I was able to work remotely from home, kind of travel to the shows, check on my teams, and kind of grew quite a bit. I was able to give a lot of people work, and that kind of put me in a place where I was really happy, because all of my friends, I was able to hire people I knew, great workers from all over. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's a great feeling, probably, right? Being able to hire people you
Hmm.
know and trust and who support your vision, and being able to
Yeah.
make sure that they eat too.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about the team. For me, I think I've always kind of operated that way. If it means I struggle a little bit or pay myself a little less for a while, it makes me happy knowing that other people are doing well. So I've always operated that way.
And then
Yeah.
how did you get into Tapville Social?
Yeah. So like during the pandemic, obviously everything was changing, right? So I was already in that mindset where I was brewing beer at home. I was doing a lot of home brewing last year, just with all that downtime.
Yeah.
And the year prior, I was already kind of thinking, okay, well, in the future, I want to definitely get into beer more. So when Tapville Social kind of came through, I saw them on Facebook. They have another location, and I started talking to the owner. We, hit it off.
The
And we
Naperville
talked.
location?
Naperville, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we hit it off, and we just been talking ever since. And I kept thinking about it for about 6 months straight, and I just could not let it go. And I think I just pulled the trigger. I said, let's do it. So yeah.
Yeah. So what's your role there? Like what is your involvement in opening up the Fox Valley location?
Yeah. So Fox Valley, a funny story. I know you like stories, right? So
I
funny
love
story.
stories.
I was producing a Christmas tree display at Hawthorne Mall, Vernon Hills. And Vernon Hills is part of the same mall group as Fox Valley. So I got to know all the VP and the higher ups, and we did a great job for them. We ended up doing some stuff for Fox Valley at the end of the holiday season. And, because of that relationship, Joe and I, the original founder of Tapville, realized there was a huge opportunity there for us. He was already thinking about putting one in Fox Valley. And long story short, I said, I'll do it for you. So I basically bought the concept from them. I franchised this location. And yeah, 6 months later, we're here. So
That's
that's the story.
amazing.
Hmm.
So did you have to go to the bank and get like a approval for the loan for the amount of the franchise? How does that work?
I cash flowed a lot of it. I bootstrapped a lot of it. I had a little bit of savings. I just worked my butt off and try to pay as much as I can. And then I think towards the end of it, I took a small loan out to make sure we were good for the opening and for product and for payroll. But it was, PPP helped a little bit as well. But for the most part, I did try to bootstrap as much of it as possible.
Wow. Are you
Yeah.
proud of yourself? Are you happy?
Yeah, it's a very relieving feeling. It was stressful, but being a young guy, especially a Latino, I kept asking myself, like, who am I to open up my own beer place, in a mall in a very populous second largest city in Illinois, sitting in front of the aldermans and the mayor and all these meetings, filling out all these paperwork, the liquor license. I'm like, this is crazy, but it's like anything, if it's worth it, and you're passionate about it, eventually you come out on top at the end,
Yeah.
yeah.
Eventually you come out on the top.
Yeah. And we all
Um,
make mistakes, right? Like I've made mistakes. I've made choices where I was like, well, I should have done this instead, etc. But that's part of the process.
It led you to where you are now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And have you guys opened, right? You guys are open, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We opened about almost 2 weeks ago now.
Uh-huh. How's it
So
going so far?
it's been great. Yeah. People
Yeah.
are loving the mimosas and the
Oh,
sangrias. Yeah.
I saw a Facebook post. Somebody's like, they're walking around with a mimosa in the mall. And they're like, come get yours. And
Yeah.
everybody's like, where's that at?
Yeah. No, we've been really thankful for people, spreading the word, and I think Facebook and the what's happening in our group definitely
Yes.
played a big part. So Tapville is a self-serve beer, wine, cider kiosk. We originally were going to be outside in the mall, and we ended up coming inside. In some ways, that played in our favor because we're able to play sports on TV or have a lot of product on the shelves here and merchandise. But yeah, if somebody walks in, they get checked in with their ID, put on a bracelet, and they get a pour pass, and they're able to go to one of these taps back here and help themselves to anything from beer, wine, ciders. We make the mimosas here, but people love that. They're able to sort of sample a little bit of everything. They might already know what they like. I usually ask them what they typically like to drink. And from there, they're able to find something that is their taste. They're usually shocked that they can walk around the entire mall. They're almost hesitant to walk out the door. And I usually joke with them and say, don't worry, the mall cop's not going to tackle you. Like, we got approved to let you walk around the mall. And people get
I
scared.
was
They're like,
surprised. I
yeah,
was
yeah,
really surprised. I mean, I'm surprised that the mall will let people walk in other stores with it. Like, whoa, it's crazy.
yeah. We obviously offer people lids and straws in case people are like, I think I'm going to spill this, or I got my kids pulling my arm, or etc. But I think that, for the most part, people are really comfortable knowing that this is new and they're excited, and they can go in the store while they browse, through clothes. They can sip their wine or sangria. It's new, it's unique, and it's exciting. It gives people a reason to come to the mall, for
Yes,
sure.
it gives, and with the weather, you never know what the weather is going to be here. So
Hmm.
it's almost like a guaranteed, like it's indoors, air
Hmm.
conditioned or heated, depending on the time
Yeah.
of year.
I mean, we're
And
not surprised that it's snowing right now, right? It's almost May. It happens every year. It snows like 1 day or 2 days in April. It's kind of, something to expect. But that's good for us because people are going to want to shop in the mall and stay somewhere warm. But yeah.
exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so what else? And shout out to that Naperville owner who allowed you and took that chance and gave you the opportunity to open up your own franchise. That's amazing.
Yeah, I think he's a very forward thinking guy. His name's Joe Toda. I think the fact that he took a chance on me was a big thing. I think that was the moment where he said, let's do this. We're going to have you sign this franchise agreement. In my mind was like, okay, I'm definitely in now. Like, I can't fail. If I were to say anything to anybody who's young out there, if you're an entrepreneur, the moment you do get those opportunities and chances, run with it and run hard. Like, don't look back. I think if you start having doubts, that's just your mind and your ego at play. That's just the way your mind works. When you realize that, you kind of have to be in control of that, and take the leap forward, do whatever you got to do to make it work.
And I think also, I mean, he took a chance on you because you're newer to him, that it's a newer
Mhm.
relationship, but
Mhm.
your work ethic and your experience to this point, you're ready
Mhm.
for it. You're ready for the moment. You really put yourself in the position to where you're capable and able and just the right person to take it to the next level. I think that's important.
Yeah. I think, with the event background, I think he was excited about that because we do events. So we're already expanding that vision because I can't officially say when, rolling out trailer version of Tapville. So we're going to be able to take it all over Chicago and all over the country. So that's going to be a big next step for the company. But
Mhm.
I think that maybe he found that my background was also, a very solid background for this industry. Yeah. Because technically
Mhm.
we're in retail, I didn't really imagine myself getting into retail, but that's the thing, right? Anytime you have a goal, you you say, eventually I want to do this, it doesn't always play out exactly how you think. But I will say that working here, yeah, we have a great team, but working here, it doesn't feel like retail. People are having a good time. They're getting a drink. We're not trying to, sell them on why they should have a drink. I think most people are already excited about it. So that makes it easier.
Yeah, and it's your retail. That's
Yeah, yeah.
different. That makes a big difference, right?
Yeah, yeah. You try to make your team and anybody that joins you excited as you. And I think for the most part they are, because they can kind of see the vision for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what about, you talked about that headspace of if you
Mhm.
doubt, and to make this happen, you had to strike up conversation. You had to be a relationship builder and
Mhm.
approach people. And that's
Mhm.
how this really came about, was building that human connection. Talk about that and the role that plays in your success and potentially the success of other people who follow.
Yeah, yeah. I think anytime you have an idea, anytime you have a vision in your head, and you really want something, like it's a great idea, you want to move forward with it. Not everyone works, right? But all it takes is a minute to just reach out, say hi to somebody, ask them if they're willing to be a part of your vision, ask them if they're willing to accept you as part of the team or their company. That's the first step. And just like 9 times out of 10, somebody might say no, but it's that one time, that's all it takes, where you realize, you look back a year, 5 years, 10 years from now, and you realize it was all worth it. And it all took just 1 minute, to make that decision. I think that my life's always worked that way. I mean, I deal with companies from all over the country, sometimes different countries. We do stuff in Canada too. And, there's been opportunities that I keep looking back to where all it took was me saying yes to something or asking somebody. And I realized that you have to do that all the time if you want to see any kind of success on any level, right?
Mhm.
And I think that people sometimes they get caught up in the what will happen if I fail, what's going to happen if this doesn't work out, I'm going to maybe look like a fool, or et cetera, right? And I think that people, they think about that a little too much, and then they stop themselves from just even making the initial conversation. And going in fearless, if you get that, what do they call that, butterflies in your stomach feeling,
Mhm.
you want to do that every day, and
You
I think I
want
read a
that
really,
every day?
you want that every day, yeah. And so I read a really good book about this from Seth Godin a long time ago, where
Okay.
you get that nervous feeling that you're taking some kind of leap in the right direction, and for me it was just as simple as like people asking for snacks. We only had chips, so I went out and I got like jerky and popcorn and other stuff, and then people are like, this is great, but it's just like a stupid little thing that for me was like, I don't know, it's going to be worth it. Like just little decisions like that every day that you make you uncertain or not sure, if it's going to be the right decision. You need that every day,
Yeah.
because it makes you feel alive. Your heart races, and that's why I like running a lot. I don't know. Do you run? I think you run. We
I
talked about this before.
used to run, and I
Okay.
haven't I haven't ran this year yet. I plan
Okay.
on getting back though, but you do run, yes.
Yeah, I think so. Like that heart pumping, like breathing heavy, inhaling a ton of oxygen, that feeling, I try to replicate that a lot, whether it's lifting, running, talking with somebody, striking a deal, it makes you feel alive. And
Yeah.
I'm the kind of person that I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to wake up tomorrow. I'm sure you're the same way, so you try to live your best life every day.
We have
Yeah.
one life and it is not
Mhm.
guaranteed. And that's never been more real than this last year.
Mhm.
And what else are we here for other than to, make ourselves better each day, and then to raise the floor of everyone else around us too,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, yeah. Especially when your kids are around you. If you have kids or people who aspire to have kids someday, I think eventually you start thinking about, am I the best version of myself? Am I being who I want my kids to see as an example? And I think about that a lot, and everybody's different, right? Sometimes we want to judge, sometimes we want to judge ourselves or others. And I think sometimes, this is why I posted yesterday on Facebook. I don't know if you saw that, but when you look in the mirror every morning, do you look at yourself in the eyes or do you avert your own gaze? And it's a very
Ooh.
deep thought, right? And it's something that's been on my mind a lot, because if you're not comfortable looking at yourself in the mirror, something has to change, you know. But sometimes people see the reflection of themselves in their friends or their kids, right? And they start to ask themselves the same thing: is this where I want to be 5, 10 years from now? Are these the people that support me? Am I being the best person for these people, right? And that's a big part of, I think, what every entrepreneur should be thinking. And I'm sure you would agree with your kids and your family. Um,
Mhm.
Are you still
And
married? Like you're
yeah,
married, right? Okay, so you guys have like what is it? How many kids do you guys have?
we have three boys, high schooler, junior high, and then elementary. So the baby
Okay,
is 8. And yeah,
yeah.
we've been together for almost 20 years. Crazy.
Wow. So yeah, you guys have a full house for sure. So
Yeah.
you know exactly what it's like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great because when you have that much going on around you, you have energy coming in from all sides and you learn
Yes.
to absorb it, but you also learn to put some good energy out there. And I think like no matter if you're having a good day or a bad day, you try to give out the best energy you can, right?
Yeah,
Would you
and
agree?
it's
Yeah.
really a good point that you just made because you're right. There's so many different energies. And then as they go out into the world, my husband or
Hmm.
my children, and then you come back, it's like we're all bringing back something with us. And so
Hmm.
it's being very mindful here in the house, at least, of what are we bringing into this space? And do we
Hmm.
have the opportunity to influence that? We can change our space, we can change our atmosphere, and it starts inward, but sometimes you don't recognize it all the time, or and that's kind of like the dance that you play
Yeah.
every single day.
Yeah, you just made a good point, and something that's big for me too. It's like money is great, but eventually, no matter how young or old you are, eventually you get tired of chasing it. So you have to realize that Jim Rohn wrote a good book called The Seasons of Life. It's one of my favorite books, and I always keep it on my shelf.
Okay.
The Seasons of Life, yeah, by Jim
Okay.
Rohn. And it talks about how, life is like, the seasons, right? You have spring, summer, fall, winter, and you have to learn to understand the vibes of life, like which season are you in, the seasonality, and you have to go with that flow. Whether
Yeah.
things are slowing down or things are going faster, you have to accept it and you have to run with it, right? And I think too often people kind of get caught up in like trying to fight against that. It
Yeah.
basically resists against the slowness of things. They try to fight it, whatever it is, right? And so when you learn to accept the seasonalities of where you are in your own life, right, and not measure yourself against other people and their circumstances, you begin to have this inner peace, right?
Yeah.
And so, when you do get into that real nice spring, summer, spring, you're planting your seeds, after the depth of winter, and then summer things start to sprout and flourish. You start to realize like you have the ability to give other people the seeds that they need to have their spring so that they can flourish into the summer, right? And so I guess the whole reason I'm bringing that up is because when I went into this, I realized it was a great business model. I realized it could be great for my future, my family, friends, whatever, right? But I did it for other reasons. I did it because I love craft beer and I saw that it was totally different than what most people are doing. So I wanted to bring about the change in the space, not only for the mall, for Fox Valley, but also for beer in general. And so that was a big part of it because if I had just done it for the money or whatever, I don't think it would have been the same, you
No,
know?
because you're passionate about this, and you genuinely enjoy it, and you
Hmm.
feel like you have something that you can offer that is great.
Hmm.
And we all have our callings and our,
Hmm.
what attracts us, I think, is kind of what calls us in a way, what we're
Hmm.
drawn to. And I think with what you mentioned, craft beer is being yours
Hmm.
and how you want to change that space. And imagine if you didn't step up to that mantle and his
Joe,
name,
yeah,
Joe, and if he
yeah,
found someone else, not Edwin
hmm,
though, and
yeah,
that other person could probably do it, but not as
hmm,
good as you, not with your same energy and passion and readiness and
sure,
ability. And so imagine if you just let your doubt talk you out of it, then it'd be under indexing the world in that
sure.
way, right?
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy because we've had so many people stop by, some people I know, some people I don't know, congratulating us, checking out the space. And it's a funny story. There was at least one or two people that stopped by that originally wanted to do this here because they had met Joe before. Maybe the timing wasn't right. Maybe the pandemic hit. But I will say, like, even with the fear of the pandemic and all the uncertainties, I almost didn't do it either. So it definitely, I think, was a fear-based type decision because the world was driven by fear. But one of the things I talk to my kids about, my friends, is like if you base everything off the media and the fear that everything is, the society's instilling and everything, then we none of us would ever move forward because the pandemic, although it's probably the biggest fear-based societal impact we've ever seen, that kind of stuff happens every day, all our life. Like we see war, we see this and that,
Hmm.
people going out of business. So we start to kind of operate under that influence. And so
Hmm.
if it wasn't for me just kind of avoiding that and just being like, all right, well, what does society need? What does the mall need? What do I want to do? I think that's what made the decision for me, because otherwise I wouldn't have done it, you know?
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
like how you brought up the seasons and being in the flow. I equate that almost to rhythm. Like,
Hmm.
there's ups and downs. And even with the pandemic, we're
Hmm.
in this constant state of flux.
Hmm.
But if we look at it like a wave, like a
Yep.
pattern, right?
Yep.
And that has to happen to some degree. There has to be the ebb and flow, the yin,
Yep.
the yang, in order for balance and harmony. Like, and that's what we all bring is a specific tune, a specific
Hmm.
beat to make a beautiful harmony. Maybe
Hmm.
I'm going off tangent here,
No, no,
but
that's perfect. Yeah, because I think you have to love the struggle. You have to also love the good times, you know, and the bad, like they say, right? And it's like if you learn to embrace the struggle instead of fight it, then life is better. You have a great attitude. You attract more great people. You know, you have more success. You
where
know,
did
like
you grow up?
I
Where did you start? Like, what's your early years like?
yeah, yeah. I was born in Chicago. Pretty humble beginnings. We used to walk to the supermarket every day, a couple, a mile or two, carrying our bags. My mom holding my brother's hands. You know, I had three brothers. When we got older, moved to Florida, we adopted my sister. So my dad used to drive like an hour to work every day in the snow down North Avenue from north side Chicago to the suburbs, and he
Hmm.
used to work in concrete, you know. My mom used to work for Being a Beef as like some
Yeah.
kind of secretary or something. Yeah. And yeah, fast forward, we grew up in Florida with my grandparents being nearby so they can help take care of us. And my dad just always been workaholic a little bit. He's just always working, always working. And my mom no longer works. She's semi-retired, but she's kind of does her own thing. But
Hmm.
that's where I would say I learned everything from. It's my dad, and then my mom too. My mom was always very good at communicating and influencing. And my dad was just always show up no matter what, do it, whatever's necessary. I used to remember my dad cutting the grass all the time. He just always wanted to maintain the lawn. And I was always curious about that, just how like he wanted to keep it perfect. And I would always ask, like, can I help you? Can I help you? But what I learned from him was like the attention to detail, was also a big thing. So just always thinking about the little things that make a big difference. So anybody with any business, sometimes we just want to kind of launch and just hope it works, but it's
Hmm.
more than that, right? And you know this. I mean, you have great attention to detail in your setup for your podcast studio, which is great. That stands out, right? So yeah, from my dad's side, getting the attention to detail, the hard work ethic, and fast forward, I'm in college, paying my way through. I didn't have my parents, money or help, try to figure it out. And then from there, I kind of accidentally stumbled into the whole event and promotional industry. So yeah.
Yeah. And and the other part that I love about you is you stay really close to people in general.
Hmm.
So how has the pandemic influenced your work and the way that you're able to connect and relate? Have you been part of that like sequestered bubble or have you still been out on the go every day?
Yeah, yeah. I've stayed very busy, and I think that the relationships that I had with some clients and people, have allowed me to stay busy. But it also gave me the ability to give a lot of people work who maybe otherwise couldn't make it with just unemployment or didn't have that option. So it allowed me to give people work all over the country. So I always had that in the back of my head, like, how can I make a difference during this time? Like, and it didn't matter to me how much money I was making. I was more worried about making sure my staff was happy. But I also found out that the relationships that I had from previous were also a big thing for me that carried through the pandemic and is now kind of moving forward into the future too. My mindset was probably, it was tough because I meditated a lot and try to avoid, like the negativity of everything, but also understanding what was going on. And I think what helped too is homebrewing. I homebrewed a lot and talked to
Hmm.
people a lot about beer and stuff and went to a lot of breweries. And the whole last year I was in breweries every week, even if people
Were
weren't
they
allowed
open?
there. Yeah. Like some of them were open only outside. And some of them I was just good friends with and they let me try stuff and I would give them things to try. And, you know, that's kind of
Yeah,
like, I think what fired me up. Yeah. Yeah.
you found your way in there. You're like, I'm getting in these
Yeah.
breweries.
I'm like, I need a beer. I need to get away from the house, and eventually I think that's where I saw Tapville. I'm like, let's do this, So yeah.
Mhm. And so what are your goals? Where are you going to take this next?
Yeah. Yeah. We're already working on a second location. I can't announce it yet. It's probably going to take a while because we're trying to advocate for the same type of license to allow people to stroll to the shopping center. And then we have the trailers rolling out in the future, which I'm going to also help be a big part of. But my goal is to have at least 5 locations. and maybe a trailer or two. So yeah, that's the goal.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Anything else that in terms of leadership or marketing or
Hmm.
insight that you can offer someone listening who is listening to you, admiring the work that you're doing, what
Hmm.
would you say as parting words?
Yeah, yeah. Don't get overwhelmed by the unexpected. Have something that takes your mind off of the worst that comes your way, whether it's family, friends, or a hobby, and making sure to take care of yourself. That's a big thing. It's like we all want to
Mm.
work to the point of exhaustion, but there's no glory in overworking yourself. Like if people talk about, there's a glorification right now of 80 to 100-hour weeks. you know, it's not sustainable in the long term, especially as you get older. So I think if you learn to take care of your mind and your body, whether it's working out or meditating or hobbies, fly fishing, whatever it is, right? I think
Fly fishing.
fly fishing, everybody's got like, random stuff for women, guys. And some people like to do yoga. Some people like to go hiking. Just, when you just want to pull your hair out, just go for a walk even.
Yeah.
And I think that if you can maintain your mental health during these times, especially with all the uncertainty of this, society in general, I think that's the number one most important thing. So yeah, but just keep moving forward. Don't get overwhelmed, and take care of yourself. Keep those good connections that you have. Be good to people, and you'll be in a good place.
Yeah. Be
Yeah.
good to people.
Hmm.
Because you never know. Here we are, what, 10 years
Yeah.
later, something like that?
Yeah, I know. I'm waiting for Mayor Irvin. I saw you did the interview with him to come in so I can give him a beer. And
Oh, is he
I didn't really
coming in
get to.
today, this morning?
Well, I don't know. We're gonna have a ribbon cutting with all the chambers. I'll make sure you know. But yeah, he'll be coming out for that one for sure. And
Yeah.
I just can't wait to give him a beer because I haven't actually been able to sit down one on one with him.
Uh-huh.
But I've seen him a lot. But just, I guess, long story short, we're excited to be here, and we're excited that you're thankful that you are interviewing us here. And yeah, like this is just the beginning.
This
So
is just the beginning. I'm so happy for you. So proud of the work that
thank
you're
you.
doing. I'm glad to see you rise and succeed. And it's predictable. It's, if nothing else, it's predictable based off of your habits that you display every day. I think that's the another key is, like you
Hmm.
said, you have daily habits. You run, you keep your mind in shape, you keep your
Hmm.
body active, and positivity. Those are so
Sure.
important to daily success. It tells you where you're
Yeah.
going to go.
And I also understand, like, I have family and friends who have really bad circumstances, and I totally understand. And I have a good story about my brother. When Puerto Rico, I have an older half brother in Puerto Rico, and the Hurricane Maria hit. He
Mhm.
lost like half his house. He ended up he lost everything. And I said, hey, he's the kind of person who I gave him advice for years, but I never really saw him take action on it. And at that moment, he's like, all right, I got to do something. So I gave him a ticket and I flew him to San Antonio. He found a job. He worked for 6 months. He flew his family out there on his dime. He made money. He changed his whole life. And so it's
Wow.
like, this is a guy who, I won't say too much, but he had, kids, a lot of kids, and he was behind on, child support or whatever. And, he wasn't in a good place. He had gone through some of the worst things he could think of, including jail time. And so, now he's working for a large shipment company, like a delivery company. He's making great money. He's got a house, and it took 3 years to do that. So it just
Mhm.
goes to show that even with people who are in the worst circumstances, like, don't get frustrated. All it takes is just day by day. Just do something good once a day, every day for a while, and you'll start to see things turn around.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And that's amazing. And I love that you're able and willing to be in those positions to extend that to, like you said, planting seeds, right? And you can
Yeah.
only plant seeds when you have it yourself, and when you're in a
Hmm.
position of abundance, or in a position of, what is it called, springtime. Like,
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And I think, it's like sometimes we're in the winter phase of our life, and somebody extends a hand to you, even when you may not be in a terrible place. The smallest things, a smile, like a hello,
has
checking in
someone
on
done
you.
that to you?
Yeah, like, there's been times where I'm just like falling apart, and maybe I have a business I'm doing okay, maybe, but mentally I'm not in a good place, and just having those people nearby, that's all you need, you know. Yeah, I don't ever want to, anybody to feel like they need to go above and beyond, but being there, is important, right? So I think like they talk about having the 5 closest friends, right? Like you're a product of the 5 people closest to you. And I used to party a lot. I used to, back way back when I was first starting promos and traveling, I used to party, and I was like, man, this is crazy. I can't sustain this, And so eventually you're like, all right, I got to focus on my goals, But then what you realize is the people that are closest to you end up being your friends for 10, 15, 20 years. That's why, you and I are talking right now because we have some type of connection that has sustained time, has basically, I mean, in some ways, you find yourself in a position where you're reaching out to somebody you haven't talked to in 20 years. And it almost seems like the universe has put that person in that place for you for that reason, so that they can be there for you again 20 years later. And they feel like somebody who is your best friend ever, but you haven't talked to them in forever, And it's weird how it works, right? Because sometimes the people you talk to the most aren't even as close to you as some of the folks who you only talk to every month or two.
Yeah. Or the
And
folks who knew you back when, like, hey, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. I totally get it.
Yeah. You have that immediate connection. It's like I have people who, like will reach out to me once a year, once every 6 months. And I feel like I can connect to them like they're my grandpa or like they're my cousin or the best friend I've ever had. And I think, have you seen the movie Big Fish?
No.
Okay, watch that movie. I think that is one of my favorite movies of all time because
who's
what
in
it teaches. Ewan McGregor, he's also a Broadway actor. I think you would like it.
Okay.
But the story teaches you how, like, you live the story, right, in your youth, but you're leading yourself to your older self. And I was actually at a really cool, there's a motivator, his name is Brendan Burchard. And I went to one of his sessions in San Diego. It's a really good friend of mine. He's one of my best friends. It's amazing. And we had this meditative experience where you imagine yourself as a child and you fly through time, seeing yourself every stage of your life, teenager, young adult, 30s, 40s, retired, and you start to remember who you were before as a child. And like, are you going in the direction you want to go? It was powerful. But if you tie those two experiences together like that with the movie, it'll blow your mind. And I think,
what does that exercise do though? It basically acts as a compass to your natural childlike state, your authentic state.
Yeah. So you remember who you are, you remember why you're doing what you're doing, and you never forget who you were before. And I think it also puts you in a very emotional state, where you can't deny what you really want. And because like everybody talks about like, oh, just quit your job, start a business, right? Seems like a very abrasive way to do it, and when I tell people when they're working, we have a young worker here, he's a great guy. He has aspirations to make his own sangria in the future or something, right? And so I've been giving him some advice, but I told him like, work slowly every day, work towards it. Don't make any rash decisions, don't quit your other job, etc. Like work slowly towards it so eventually it flips. And what you once imagined would be your passion or your dream job now becomes your reality, And so I think if you kind of put all that together, it sort of has the same message. Like, don't forget who you are, what you love, but also do what you need to do to get to where you want to go to, while taking care of people, taking care of yourself and being your true self,
Yeah.
Because eventually as you get older, I think you would agree, right? Like you don't forget who you are. And for lack of a better term, you've stopped giving a crap what people think in some ways, because you're always going to have hate. You're always going to have, I staff for a living. People are always going to get pissed. Somebody got paid $1 less, they're giving you crap. Here, I'll give you your $1 that I owe you, like little things, right? Just like you're always going to have that in your life. And eventually you get to a point where the compass, right? Which direction you're heading in, and you take care of people. You do the best you can. You make people feel good about being with you, but eventually, you have to make sure you're going in the direction you want to go to too. So,
and that's exactly what you're doing. And your staff is lucky to have you. I mean, they couldn't have a better leader that is there working hard on behalf of them and Tapville Social. So exciting.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm proud of you for coming this far. I never would have thought you had had such an awesome podcast put together, and it makes sense because you were so great at having conversations with everyone, and I always felt like you had such great vibes, so congratulations on doing that. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Great to connect again. Thank you for listening to Tuesdays with Andrea. There are hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there, and I appreciate you making the time to listen to mine. If you like this show and want to know more, check out TuesdaysWithAndrea.com, or please leave a review on iTunes or drop a line in the YouTube comments section. Until next time, please stay kind in your mind, nice on the web, and stay hella hopeful in your heart.